What's up, everyone, and welcome to my first ever live stream right here on YouTube.com. Welcome to the Slam Sessions. As you can obviously see, this is the first time I've ever been live because, well, can't get the camera right. But I'm Howard Albanese, and I'm here for my first stream on YouTube. I'm really excited about this, guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So we'll see how this works. This will be my first YouTube exclusive Slam Session show. So I'm excited. I can't wait to hear from you guys. I can't wait to talk to you guys. So yeah, let's have some fun. So as some of you guys may know, I put a post out on my social media earlier today, and I asked the question: do you Vince McMahon buries NXT talent to prove a point to Triple H? Now, so I mean, it's a sick question, with a lot of different answers. And I think that this came generally from the idea that on Monday Night Raw and on SmackDown we saw four WWE debuts from the NXT roster. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano had tag matches against the Revival in the Bar. Aleister Black wrestled Elias, and he wrestled Andrade. And Ricochet had a tag match with Finn Balor involved, and I, for the life of me, can't remember who he wrestled on SmackDown. But and that's because I haven't watched it yet. Being completely honest, I haven't had a chance. But with that being said, a lot of people then started talking about the idea that the reason why Vince did this was for ratings, and I think he felt that by bringing in new NXT talent might help the ratings. But that'll be seen later on to see what the effect they had, and if in fact that had an overall effect on those ratings. But I posed a question to everybody before I wanted to give my answer, and I'm going to read to you a couple of the answers that I had gotten. Mike had actually had said, "But what point would he be proving?" And that's kind of where I came from initially. What point would Vince be proving to Triple H if he's like, "Well, I'm just going to bury all the guys that you brought up"? That doesn't help the WWE. It doesn't help Vince. It doesn't help Hunter. It doesn't help anybody. So, I think that's kind of ridiculous. But that's just me personally. I think that it's a little bit insulting to think that Vince would specifically bury superstars just because to prove something to Triple H. It doesn't make any sense to me. A couple of responses I got. Nikki had said, "I don't think so. I think Vince is short-sighted. NXT is under the WWE umbrella, and at the end of the day, plus they won all the respective matches on both shows too. That being said, it still felt a bit odd." Santo added, "Rollins is main eventing WrestleMania, as is Becky Lynch." And he also added a really good point. He said, "Guys, there are too many wrestlers and so little chances unless they make NXT Brand 3, where there's a hybrid version of ECW, if you recall." So I guess the idea was the WWE ECW that started, then turned into the NXT reality show, was a third legitimate brand. And if that's the case, yeah, then you can push more guys on there. So I guess you kind of can do a little more there with those guys with a third brand. That opens up more opportunities, more chances, and all that kind of stuff. And finally, the other couple of responses I got, Craig had mentioned, I think he does it to boost his own ego because he wants to always be the top dog, the genius that everyone looks to for answers, and most of all, doesn't want to feel old and behind the times. I mean, that's a solid point. We know that Vince can get to a point where he's, Vince can get to a point where, he does seem to be like a little bit like the man, and he wants everybody to feel that like he's the be all end all, he's the smartest guy in the room. But I don't think Vince has to prove it. I think Vince has already proven it. I think all the people who want Triple H to take over what Vince does is specifically because they feel that he can run the WWE like you run NXT, but it's a completely different show. And I think you can see Vince's vision is what we see. But I also think that we see a lot of Triple H's fingerprints on Raw and SmackDown, especially with Road Dogg being hired. TJ Fritz, you just said that I think that by making ECW a third brand, it killed it. Going there probably felt like a demotion. And yeah, you're probably right. I think that Kurt Angle certainly felt that going to ECW was a demotion. A lot of guys felt that going to that brand was a demotion. The Big Show went to ECW and got pushed as their top star, but probably felt like, well, I'm just going here to help out this new brand, and then I'll go back to the bigger shows and make the bigger houses and make the bigger payoffs. Kurt Angle has gone on record stating that he felt that going to ECW as that third brand was a demotion, and he wasn't mature enough to see that that Vince wanted Kurt Angle to be the guy to teach all these other newer guys, the younger guys, the guys that they were going to push in the future, show them the ropes basically. And if NXT is that brand, that could lead to something. That's something a little discussion I want to get to in a little bit. Finally, Albie made the point that nope, some guys, I agree, should be pushed more, and a lot of NXT guys are the Shield, the entire women's division, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, but not all are main event level guys. Why fans think Ty Dillinger should be used more or Tyler Breeze is beyond me. They were jobbers on NXT. What were they going to do on the main roster? But not using Sanity at all annoys me. And now Albie brings up a bunch of different points. And he mainly touches on one of the main points that I'm going to focus on. But at the same point, he brings up a couple of things that I maybe don't agree with. The things that I don't agree with is that Ty Dillinger and Tyler Breeze were used as jobbers in NXT, and they weren't. Tyler Breeze was in the world title hunt. Ty Dillinger had gotten popular. He was feuding with Sanity before they left, getting big wins over them. His character and persona was taking on a life of its own and getting a lot of recognition, and then so much so that he got pushed up to the main roster, debuted at number 10 at the Royal Rumble, and seemed to have a pretty good showing of himself throughout his time on SmackDown Live. TJ, let's see. I just think Vince does it better because he either does it or doesn't see the money in a situation. At the end of the day, it's what draws the most cash. Hey, Harry, what's up? And I agree with that. What I boil down to is what makes the most money. We seldom think of the WWE as a business. And, we just got the big announcement that Roman Reigns will be returning to Monday Night Raw to just let us all know about what's going on with him. Let us know what's going on with him. I guess, for the most part, just, I guess, health-wise. Both men are criminally underrated. Shane would happen to both. Yeah, I mean, and that's the, I'll get into that in a second, TJ. But my train of thought is that Roman is coming back, and Roman was the big draw for Vince. At least that's the guy he hitched his wagon to. A lot of people forget. We talk a lot about NXT talents. Roman Reigns was an NXT talent, guys. We can't seem to lose sight of the fact that whether or not we like or dislike people, that Roman Reigns came from NXT. There's a lot of other people who, I think the writers don't watch NXT. Harry, you might be right, but I think what a lot of people don't understand is that there are a lot of main event talent right now that are NXT talents, guys. TJ, you bring up a point. Tyler Breeze, Ty Dillinger, yes, criminally underrated. I don't dislike, TJ, I've heard the same thing, that Vince doesn't watch NXT at all. And that he said, bring me the best 4 guys from NXT, and those are the 4 guys they brought up, which he's probably right. But, Ty Dillinger, Tyler Breeze, they were super talented. I like Tyler Breeze in the tag team with Fandango. I actually called that from day one, that when he got up to the main roster, as soon as the singles push fizzled, he was going to be a guy that was going to wind up being in a tag team with Fandango. I don't know how I predicted that, but I did. And on the other hand, Ty Dillinger was doing well, got hurt, and doesn't seem like he got back up onto the to where he once was on SmackDown. Where I lie in all this is the fact that if you look at the major superstars, the big title holders, the guys that we see that are being pushed to the forefront, They're NXT stars. And yeah, I get what you're saying, TJ. I don't know about doubled, though. I think that we're going a little bit overboard. Sure, there are the Tyler Breezes and the Ty Dillingers, and Ty Dillinger will be a cautionary tale. Sanity isn't being used, and, that's who Tyler Breeze beat. He beat Eric Young. I'm sorry, not Tyler Breeze. Beat Eric Young on SmackDown. Harry, I don't know if we're getting NXT UK call-ups. I don't know where, if some of those people want to specifically even work in the States, but that's for us to see in the future. But, the main, for the people like the Ty Dillingers and maybe the Breezes, Dana Brooke, Hideo Itami, trying to think of some other NXT guys that really didn't make it. Yeah, are all those guys, cautionary tales that not everybody makes it? Sure. But look at the main event picture on most shows. On both shows. Look at the guys who are being pushed on both of these shows. Andrade, former NXT champion. Roman Reigns was in NXT. Seth Rollins was in NXT. Braun Strowman was in NXT. Not a lot, and he wasn't really focused on. Rusev, there's another one, TJ. AOP, Sanity, Revival, Bobby Roode, Dana Brooke, Cruz, Itami, Zayn. Yeah, but a lot of those people you named are being used decently well. Yes, has Rusev been, started and stopped? Sure. Xavier Woods is another example. But these guys, they are having some monicums of success. We're not seeing guys come up from NXT and immediately just being used and jobbed out. They're having initial success, and if they catch on, that's when Vince will, see more in those guys. And Harry, I did hear that. Weird couple, but I digress. So, all right. So, Cruz, Itami, Zayn, Brooke are yet to win a title on the main roster. Sami Zayn is the only person there that I can say, is going to probably get one and probably get one pretty soon. Apollo Crews got pushed for a little while. He was having matches against Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose. It looked like he was getting a little bit of a push. Harry, I can agree 100%. Hideo Itami asked for his release. I don't think Hideo quite worked out. I think the injuries really hurt him. Those things happen. But yeah, but also winning a championship isn't all about the success that you have on the main roster. Andrade hasn't won a belt on the main roster yet, but he was the last four in the Royal Rumble. He's feuding with Rey Mysterio. He's getting he's getting a big spot on SmackDown every week, having show-stealing matches. You can see that, his character's starting to take off. There are a lot of guys that were, we can talk about that there were NXT guys. The Shield in itself are just all three former heavyweight champions. There are a lot of, Rusev got the big U.S. title push and the Monster heel push. Has he cooled off? Sure. Nakamura, and I know Dave will disagree with me on the main evented part of this, but Nakamura was in a main event match at WrestleMania. And yeah, TJ, you're right. Zayn's been there for a while and he hasn't won a championship, but Kevin Owens did. And I like Sami Zayn, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he is a main event level guy. I think Aleister Black should go to the main roster. Ciampa and Gargano and Ricochet stay in NXT. I agree. And from what we understand, they're gonna, there's gonna be a major NXT announcement next week. I don't know what that's gonna be. There's a lot of speculation on what that is. But that could be, maybe they're gonna be a third brand, and maybe certain guys on the rosters will be interchangeable. That could be a big deal for NXT. Also, on top of that, we could also see talent swaps. And TJ, please let me know what you think it possibly could be. But I've heard the rumors that Gargano and Ciampa and Ricochet are all, and Black to a point too, are all staying in NXT for the time being. And they'll be featured on Monday Night Raw and on SmackDown. And TJ, maybe it is the return of the Dusty Rhodes Classic. We know that but they've been in that's also already been put out on social media. It's been announced that it's coming back, and the first 4 teams have been introduced. So I don't know if it's specifically that, but maybe it is. I think it's much bigger. And but I also don't think that, you know, the big rumors that Vince was like, get me 4 NXT guys. Any 4 NXT guys. Who are the top 4 NXT guys? And somebody went and said, well, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano and Aleister Black and Ricochet. He was like, get me those 4. Let's bring them up to the main roster. We need ratings. You think he's not going to talk to Triple H about that? I find it to be really weird that they're saying Triple H wasn't involved in the decision making. I call absolute shit on that. There's no way that Triple H didn't know the guys that were going to be brought up. And there's no way that Vince bypassed Triple H about that. And this is what leads me to the main question. Where, you know, the main question of, you know, this whole entire episode is, do we think that Vince McMahon is burying NXT talent to prove a point to Triple H? And the answer to me is no. Absolutely not. We've all seen and heard every person who's ever been brought up to the main roster say these things. Well, I came from, and Dream will get there eventually, but he's not ready. I love Dream. Don't get me wrong, but he deserves to be where he is right now, and he'll get there. But we've heard guys like Chris Jericho, Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, trying to think of some other examples, even to a point, Kurt Angle. These guys, AJ Styles, these guys were major stars at points in other companies, in other at other venues, in other walks of life. And Vince didn't push these guys until he tore everything about them completely off, form fit them with something completely different, and said, let's see if you sink or swim. Vince is doing that with every NXT talent. That hasn't changed. What's changed is the fans' perception. What's changed is that we have a lot of fans who think that Vince McMahon hates NXT. We have a lot of fans who think that NXT is the far more superior brand to Raw and SmackDown, whether or not that's the case. And we also have a lot of fans who think that that all these people should immediately be pushed as soon as they get back, they get onto the main roster. Guess what, guys? There's a limited number of titles. There's a limited number of spots for these guys to fill. Finn Balor was the first ever Universal Champion. Seth Rollins is main eventing WrestleMania. Roman Reigns main evented WrestleMania. Dean Ambrose is a former heavyweight champion. Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Sasha Banks. They've all won women's championship gold. We're forgetting about the small amount of times where people, AOP were tag champions. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, tag champions. You know, we're forgetting about all these guys who came up from NXT and have won championships or have been successful in some way, and we immediately think of all the negative stuff. The problem with fans today is it's that instant gratification. And I think that that's the biggest problem with wrestling right now. Now, I'm doing this live from my room. I'm in my house. And you can see right behind me is a Daniel Bryan poster. And Daniel Bryan's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And I was happy. Yeah, yes, I get it, TJ. They were short, but she still won the title. I mean, that doesn't... And she's the first ever women's tag team champion. I get what you're saying. You can't say that she wasn't pushed. When you win that title, you get a push. You're pushed to the forefront. You are now, even though if you don't win any of those title defenses. Alexa Bliss, by the way, is another good example. Nia Jax is another good example. If you win that championship, you are put as the head. You're the main focal point in that storyline. Asuka's the women's champion now. But you know, we get to those points where we see these people have a modicum of success, and we get happy about it. Like Daniel Bryan, for example. Asuka's not a bad example. It took them a long time, and yes, maybe it was unconventional, but she's the champion now. And I don't know if Enzo and Cass were the best call-ups from NXT as a tag team. They didn't win, and then they split them up. But Daniel Bryan's the current WWE champion. Everybody wanted to see how many years ago we got Roman Reigns being booed out of a building. We got, people booing main events because Daniel Bryan wasn't in it. And Bryan finally comes back. He turns heel. He wins the championship. And everybody's about it. And now everybody wants Kofi to win the belt. Great. They finally got the belt on Daniel Bryan. This is great. He deserved it. Let's put it on somebody else. If it was up to all you guys, and I'm not singling out people who are listening to this specifically, but it was up to most of the internet, guys would win a championship for 3 days and then lose it because they want the next big guy to come up and win a championship. AJ Styles had a year run on SmackDown, and I can't tell you, it was a small rumbling, but there was a small rumbling of people sitting there saying, man, well, this guy deserves it over AJ. Well, this guy should win it off of AJ. Nakamura was the one that a lot of people said that should have won it off of AJ. But Nakamura then went on and became the U.S. Championship. Harry, I'm not denying the fact that Kofi deserves it, but I don't think right now is the right time. Bryan's held the belt for 3 months. Let's give the guy a title run. Success isn't measured by championships. Success is measured by the amount of times that you can be put into a major situation and you deliver. Seth Rollins is an example of that. Every time Seth Rollins gets called on to put on a great show, Seth Rollins delivers. And that's why Vince McMahon likes Seth Rollins. Not because Triple H liked Seth Rollins, because Rollins delivered. That's why John Cena was the main focus of the division for such a long time. Because John Cena always delivered. That's what they wanted to have, done to Roman. Whether or not you agree that Roman always delivered, I think that, when it came up to big matches, Roman did deliver. I think you gave him a little bit longer with that championship. I think he would have really brought a lot of prestige to it. But we'll see on Monday where he lies. But the main part that I want to focus on now is that do we think that Vince buries people specifically just to piss off prove a point to Triple H? No. I think Vince does with his talent right now what he does to every single other person that's ever walked through the doors of the WWE. You were great somewhere. TJ, I don't think he's taking anything. I think Roman's just going to come in and just talk and that's it. But you were big somewhere else. That's great. I don't care what you did before you walked through these doors. You're going to walk through these doors and you're going to prove to me that I can put you in a big spot and you can deliver. And the successful guys from NXT came up and did that. Some can say some weren't afforded the opportunities to do so. But for the most part, those people have been successful. You can hate him all you want, but Baron Corbin's killing everything he's being asked to do. Drew McIntyre, yes, he wasn't an NXT guy at one point. For most of his career, he was, in the WWE for a long time. He was on the Indies, but he came up and he's getting a monster push. And Harry, I think that the answer to that is just specifically, that's the other 2 girls they had that they wanted to put into a tag team. I just don't think they really had anybody else. But the point that I wanted to make here was we have to look at things objectively. Vince is not going to do things to hurt his own program, to hurt other people's careers, just to play with other people's heads. For everybody who believes that, take a step back and realize that Vince has been in business for a long time. He's going to push the people who he thinks is going to make him the most money. There were right people and there were wrong people for it. Not everybody's going to be John Cena. Then again, when it comes to failed world title runs, not everybody's going to be Jack Swagger. There are 2 world championships in the WWE right now. One of them is held by a part-timer who needs to never hold that championship again. The other one is held by one of the best workers in the business. The WWE isn't in bad shape right now. The WWE needs maybe to make some layoffs and some cuts. But after that, I think their roster's fine. Harry, to answer your question real quick, I think that they want to just do main roster females. I don't think the Bellas are looking to wrestle right this second. And somebody brought up the fact that a friend of mine said that she thinks that Brie might be pregnant. There's a chance. But Vince is a smart businessman. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to waver or falter from any of his positions, specifically just to aggravate the fan base or aggravate certain people. Triple H knows what he's doing as it pertains to NXT. And Vince knows what he's doing as it pertains to the main roster. We're going to get Triple H and Stephanie at one point. Oh, my phone's falling. At one point running everything. And when we do, we will. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But until then, we don't know. And yeah, TJ, you're right. He is Vince. He'll see what works, and if it does, then it'll be a big thing. You're 100% right. But we gotta wait to see what these guys can do on the main roster, if they can connect with the other part of the audience. Because they've won us over already. People who watch NXT, they've won us over, but there's a large segment of the audience who doesn't watch NXT and don't know who these guys are. If Aleister Black, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Ricochet, EC3, Heavy Machinery, Lacey Evans, Lars Sullivan, AOP, if these guys can come up to the main roster and prove to everybody that they are what they were in NXT and more, they'll be successful. And look at the current crop of champions right now. Sure, you got Brock. It is what it is. Harry, I love the I love the Toy Fair reveals. Specifically the King Mabel. But Brock, it is what it is. But the other champions right now are Ronda Rousey, who I get it. Maybe she wasn't an NXT talent, but I think she's killing it in what she's doing. But then look at the other two. You look at the other champions on, that are associated with Monday Night Raw. Just the Universal Women's Champions, Tag Team Champions are Bayley and Sasha Banks, NXT talents. The current Cruiserweight Champion is Buddy Murphy, NXT talent. The Intercontinental Champion is Finn Balor, NXT talent. You go over on the other side, Daniel Bryan, never worked for NXT, but he's an indie talent. The U.S. Champion is R-Truth. I don't know what's going on with that. But Nakamura held it, and Rusev held them most recently before the whole R-Truth thing, both NXT talents. The SmackDown Tag Team Champions are the Usos, who were FCW/NXT talents. The Women's Champion is Asuka, NXT talent. So we forget about all those things that that we see right now. Everybody's like, well, the NXT talent doesn't really get pushed on the main roster. Yeah, guys, they do. Look at the landscape right now. And if Seth Rollins wins the title, and if, eventually Ronda Rousey loses the title, it'll probably be to a woman who came through the system. And if R-Truth loses his U.S. title, we can see everybody who has a championship in the WWE be from NXT. All in all, I think that Vince knows what he's doing. And TJ, I do completely agree with you with what you said. He wants someone who has a bit of everything, and it is a 50-50 chance that, those things will work. But we'll see. But Vince knows better than all of us. He's been doing this longer. He knows what he's talking about. And he's got Hunter there to guide him on some of these talents from NXT. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, guys, this is my first live stream. Harry, TJ, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, pretty soon we'll get these numbers up. We'll have more of a conversation, and maybe I'll go and do these on days where, I'll set a day and we'll do these, once a week, every week. But for now, it's going to be a little more sporadic, just until I get my legs under me and just until I get more than 16 subscribers. So please, guys, do me the favor and like this channel, like these videos, subscribe, and share. Please share all these videos. Let's get as many eyes on this as we can so we can have an open conversation for everything that we do from here on out. Thank you guys for joining me. Whether you join me live or whether you join me, after this would have been published onto the channel, I sincerely thank you. This has been the Slam Sessions. I'm Albert Albanese, and I'll see you guys soon.